Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in Senior English A. We are now in Unit 1. We are working with comparing texts, and we take a look now at Alfred Lord Tennyson's The Charge of the Light Brigade. Now, of course, this is going to be a poem that we will want to look closely at, but before we get there, let's start on page 75 with a bit of background information. Now, Tennyson, we have lots and lots of Tennyson that we meet in our senior year. Ulysses is the most famous of his poems. Other lectures at learnstrong.net. Let's introduce ourselves again to the great Tennyson. Notice your dates right away, 1809 to 1892. He lived almost all of that 100-year century. The fourth of 12 children. As a teenager, he was sent to Cambridge University. There he met Arthur Henry Hallam, who became his closest friend. Hallam, who intended to marry Alfred's sister, died suddenly. Grief-stricken, Tennyson wrote a series of poems as an elegy to his friend, published under the title In Memoriam A.H.H. The collection so impressed Prince Albert that he encouraged Queen Victoria to name Tennyson Poet Laureate of Great Britain and Ireland. Poet Laureate being that great poet that speaks for the nation. And in our lectures on Ulysses, we talk about why that's such an important position for him and the time that it was. Now, the Charge of the Light Brigade on page 75 there to the side. The Battle of Balaclava, which is the subject of the Charge of the Light Brigade, occurred during the Crimean War of 1853 to 1856. You want to circle that in the Crimean War. The charge resulted in the deaths of approximately 40% of the brigade. The war was not popular with the British middle class, and when the news came that so many had been killed and injured as the result of mistaken orders by those in charge, the public was outraged. The poem, which dramatically recreates the experience of the battle, celebrates the courage of the cavalry and the nobility of their sacrifice. Many people have faulted this poem for being a celebration of war and dying and sacrifice. Obviously, we're going to ask at 3A how a poem like this works with the Lovelace poem To Lucasta. Let's now read the poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade, and right away, do notice that the poem is divided up into 6 sections. Do you see that, right? Okay, so each of those sections we will be paying attention to at level 1 as we summarize. As I read the poem, I'm not going to use the numbering system of stanzas 1 through 7. I'm just going to read the poem, all right? Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward, the Light Brigade. Charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Forward, the Light Brigade. Was there a man dismayed? Not, though the soldier knew someone had blundered. Theirs not to make reply. Theirs not to reason why. Theirs but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered, stormed at with shot and shell. Boldly they rode, and well into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell rode the 600. Flashed all their sabers bare, flashed as they turned in air, sabering the gunners there, charging an army while all the world wondered. Plunged in the battery smoke, right through the line they broke. Cossack and Russian reeled from the saber stroke, shattered and sundered. Then they rode back, but not the 600. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon behind them, volleyed and thundered, stormed at with shot and shell, while horse and hero fell. They had fought so well, came through the jaws of death, back from the mouth of hell, all that was left of them. Left of 600. When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made, all the world wondered. Honor the charge they made. Honor the Light Brigade. Noble 600. Now let's begin right away at level 2B by pointing out, no question, this is a poem of repetition. Let's ask this question at 2B quickly though for you. And again, you can write in your book there, you can make some notes. Why do you think we keep coming back to the 600? What's up with the 600 being mentioned? Every stanza, 600, 600, 600. Well, obviously the repetition is to really impression on the reader the power of the loss of so much life. Let's put it in our notes, the word sacrifice. Sacrifice. Number 2. This is a poem which can easily be argued as propaganda, celebrating specifically the death or sacrifice of so many. But I think Tennyson is far more sophisticated than that. I think it's clear. Notice line 31, notice line 52. Both of those lines suggest the world was watching, the world wondered. That is to say, the world was questioning. Now obviously this is after the fact. The question is, was it worth the sacrifice of all of those fallen heroes, as he will call them, right? He will call them, in fact, heroes that deserve to be considered important, their lives well spent, in other words. Of course, at level 1, a poem like this, we can simply say that this is going to tell the story of the charge that ends in tragedy. At 2A, we can obviously argue there's multiple ways to read this poem, but one clear message is there contained in the very 7th stanza. When can their glory fade? In other words, a sacrifice so prodigious, surely, maybe speaking ironically, the poet speaker says, surely the world can't forget their glory. When will it fade? Oh, the wild charge they made. Notice the exclamation points here at the conclusion. Honor the charge they made. Now this honor the charge they made is in fact, notice, an imperative. It's a command. It's telling the reader and the watching, wondering world, this sacrifice has to be given honor. Of course, the word honor is an important word of this poem, right? Notice over and over again, we're going to be challenged to remember the 600, but at the very end of the poem, at line 34, it is honor the Light Brigade. What does honor mean? Let's jump now to questions at 3B. What does honor mean to you? And the word glory. Of course, at 3A, we can already write down the Beowulf epic. Clearly, Beowulf is very interested in this notion. You'll remember from the second part of Beowulf, right? When he speaks to King Hrothgar, that it's so important that a man's name survives him. That notion of honor as being foundational to the Anglo-Saxon code, as we spoke about in our study of Beowulf. What does honor mean? To be remembered, to be respected. Showing respect for the fallen is, of course, central to the way that we will read this poem and understand this poem. Of course, we can also, at 3A, jot down the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, those great songs of heroes, those other epic poems of heroes. At 3B, finally, what are your thoughts about remembering fallen warriors? Why is it ironic that the 50th line can ask, when can their honor, or when can their glory fade? And the answer, of course, is that it should never fade, but the reality is, of course, that very quickly we have a tendency to forget, which is the value of monuments, isn't it? It's the value of symbols, like our flag. It is the value of days. We think of Memorial Day, right? Where we try to give our memories to the fallen and to those who have made sacrifices or will make sacrifices in the months, days, years to come. The challenge, of course, now is to compare the Lovelace poem with the Tennyson poem. In what ways do they share very common kinds of ideas about the importance of proving oneself in battle in honorable fashion and the ways in which that deserves to be respected. Well, there's some comprehension questions that I want you to work with on page 80 and on page 81. All right, thank you.